Welcome to We the People Rise. You all are so lucky. We are going to be talking with Elizabeth Bullock today. Now, Elizabeth is going to be talking about how to get hired at any age, but especially if you are over 50. Now, Elizabeth is the hiring manager in the operations department in a global organization, and she has loads of experience and wisdom, and regardless of your age, you are going to learn so much. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me, Kristen. I'm really excited to talk to you about this.
Well, so that people have some context, can you tell us a little bit about your own journey?
Sure, it's kind of all over the place, but um, I was married, I had children, I stayed at home. My late ex husband started a business. I worked with him in that business. And then when he passed away, I was kind of forced with two children in college to kind of reinvent myself and start a new career. And I was lucky enough to be introduced to you. And you and I had a wonderful session or two. And you really did help me go within and determine, what were my actual skills? What did I want to do? It's not always about what you want, but you kind of start there. You want to look at your skill set, see where you could go, and really think about that. And you were very instrumental in helping me kind of springboard into that. Now, at this time, it was 2008 where we had, a recession, I guess, going, and there were not many jobs. Luckily, they were hiring at Social Security Disability, and I had some medical knowledge and that sort of thing. So I went and took the examination and ended up getting hired and trained to be a disability examiner, which was a very interesting job. But it didn't pay well. So, two kids in college, I really needed to kind of really work on my career. And this is where your network comes in. I had friends, other coworkers from my company that I worked in, and one of them said, "Hey, this company, this global company, has entry level positions. Would you be interested?" And I thought, well, why not? Why not? So I went ahead and applied and got this entry level position, which doesn't even exist anymore in this country. And I was hired, and you know, I learned so much and was able to grow within this company through just hard work and determination, to really achieve something. And everything is about learning, everything is about putting yourself out there, it's all about trying, doing your best. So I went from entry level to this director level position, and it's just been a wonderful 15 years.
Well, and just for context, from my perspective, when I met Elizabeth, and I think a lot of people her age and even younger, or regardless of your age, you don't have necessarily a good sense of how competent you are or how qualified you are, because a lot of folks just haven't taken the time to really do what you were talking about, that inner assessment, and to be able to say, okay, I'm really good at, for you, for example, you're incredibly organized. That is something that a lot of people are looking for in their job, and that's a highly transferable skill. And that's a big name to put on skill: transferable. What can I transfer from one role to another? And so having that, but then also having the belief that there are opportunities out there. I think that was one of the funniest things I remember from our meeting. You were like, oh, there's nothing out there for women my age. you know,
True.
no one's getting hired, but that's also the narratives that keep coming forth. And so if you believe these narratives that are coming forth, you start way behind the starting line, even, of
True.
somebody who believes, all you need is one job. That's really all you need. And that gets you in the door, and then you're off and running. But to your point, what I like what you said, it's not necessarily the job. Like, you weren't saying, oh, I want to go work for that was not what was happening. But that's where the door opened. So that's where you went.
That's right. It's like I want to spend my life in a gray cubicle and just read medical records all day. No, that's not. But you bloom where you're planted. You say, this is a great opportunity. I have insurance now. I have a way to learn things. I have a way to learn new computer skills, things that I wasn't exposed to before. Um, all those things. And you have to think to yourself, this job is dull and boring. I don't want to do it forever. Well, you don't have to do it forever. Nobody says you have to do it forever. So you just have to think, what can I learn here today that I can transfer, like you said, to something else? And I did learn transferable skills there, and I continue to learn transferable skills.
So let's say, how did you go from, you had this job and I have to say, for at least for me, when I got my first job, the relief, the wash of relief that happened when you get the insurance, when you get the constant
Yes.
paycheck, suddenly you're like, I pledge my life and my allegiance, my everything to this, right? Because
Right, right.
and then a year or two out, you're like, I can't stand this anymore, But at the time, it was a lifeline. So I'm sure other people experience that as well. How did you then tell me about the journey of going from the position you had to where you are now?
Well, I was the young woman who was the front desk at the business that I ran with my ex-husband. Um, had a
I do
friend.
I do want to talk about that though for a moment because you all were divorced and you were running a business together.
Right.
And I remember our being like, wow, that's got to be something.
That took a lot of grit and determination and flexibility and grace to do that. It was not the most pleasant, but it's what we had to do. So sometimes you do what you have to do.
And that's the lesson right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do what you've got to do in order to, you know, just in a sense survive before you
Right.
get to thrive. And that,
Right.
I'm not going to say we've all been in those shoes, but we've all been in shoes where,
Similar. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So my office manager, I guess is what she really was, had a good friend who worked at this company where I am now. And we were all good friends. And so we went out to dinner one night, and her friend said, what is it that you're doing now? And so I told her, and she goes, you can't keep doing that. You can't keep doing that forever. She goes, we've got openings. I'm going to put your name in and you're going to apply. And so I don't know that I was really their top candidate, but this girl had a lot of pull. So I got the job. And I learned the ins and outs. This particular type of job gave you an overview to everything that happened in the company, basically.
Wow.
So you were entry level, but you supported the leadership. So, you learned a lot if you wanted to.
Mhm.
So I learned a lot. And this is another thing that I'm high on, and that is going in the office. This was an office based job. Now, if I had not been in the office on the same floor with the HR director, on the same floor with multiple vice presidents, if I had not been with many of the leaders of our projects, if I had not been in that situation face to face with people, presenting myself appropriately, always being there to help and support, I would not be where I am because I would just be a number
Yeah.
sitting somewhere in their house. So I think that's something a lot of people have gotten really used to, this remote work, which is great because it gives us a bigger talent pool. For me as a hiring manager, it's been great. I've got a bigger talent pool that I can pull from across the country. We don't have offices in every state. But it does hurt people, I think, not to be able to have some face time with leadership and have people get to know them as a person. So for my folks that are local, I encourage them to go into our office as much as they can, meet people, go to meetings. And I think this being on camera on our teams and that sort of thing on Zoom has been really beneficial to people because it really does put a face with a name. And you want to always present yourself well, no matter what people say. I mean, I know it's popular to say, well, this is who I am. This is how I I want to look, I want to wear a hoodie every day or whatever. Well, don't go to the office in a hoodie because, it's all about how you present yourself. And when you get to be a VP and you want to wear a hoodie, but
Right.
don't do it while you're trying to move up. But anyway, back to so anyway, I learned a lot, and at one point, the group I was in were outsourcing to lower cost countries, and so I was laid off, and it was very disturbing to me because I had made management by that point. I was managing the group I'd started in, and it just seemed like the end of the world to be laid off. And I know that's how so many people are feeling right now.
Bullying.
They've given so much to a company, and it's just heart wrenching to leave those people. It's just heartbreaking. And I just remember how I felt that day. And it almost makes me sad now. But anyway, um, within hours of the word getting out in the office, I was getting phone calls from people from HR, from coworkers, like, look, here's an opening in this group. There's a management opening in this group. They just changed, they just moved some people up, they just opened this. I'm going to call her. I'm going to let her know, the hiring manager, that you're available, you're a great manager. I mean, I got 3 or 4 calls from people like that. And it was just so heartwarming to know that, I had made a difference and gotten to know people. And so it did make me feel good. So luckily, I did get that job and I never missed a day of work. And so I went on to move through management as this group kind of changed and morphed and split off and different things. But anyway, I've moved up into that group until I got a fairly um, responsible position, within the group, and then have been the hiring manager for that group for the last, I think, 8 years. So it's been really nice.
Going back to when we met, could you have imagined then the position you're in now?
Absolutely not. My self assessment at that point
Hmm.
was, I can drive the kids to school, I can do the work for the company I was doing every day, but I really couldn't see the forest for the trees. And you really were help me kind of unlock some of that thought process, which was painful. You introduced me to some people. I got some part-time work with some of the folks that you hooked me up with, and learned so much from them. And again, it's all about learning. Wherever you are, learn what you can, get the information you can get, and keep going. So yeah, I could never have imagined.
And I think a, a few things. First of all, I think a lot of nobody knows where they're going to end up.
That's right.
So, in like, I think sometimes of Taylor Swift, because I saw a video of her when she was like 13 singing the national anthem. No one's paying attention. She's in some, podunk little town. There's no way she could have imagined. No one
No,
could have imagined where
no,
she is right now. She's an extreme example, obviously, but when you put the work in every day and you keep learning every day and you keep kind of refining yourself into and what you want every day, it just naturally unfolds typically in your favor. Uh, the what I love about your story, so many different things, but and I've seen this happen in other organizations, when people like you, when they like you and they respect you, they look out for you.
that's right.
And it doesn't have to be somebody that's a good friend.
Right, right.
It, we all know people who are like, oh, I would recommend them in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
And then hopefully we all have friends who are like, oh, hell no, I would never recommend
right.
them to do it. Absolutely not. But if you want to go out tonight, let's go. Like, I mean, so hopefully everybody has a friend like that. And then the other thing is, I want to tell a story. When I was working for an investment advising association, we shared office space with a different organization. And there was a
Mm.
young woman in that organization who, whenever I was kind of running the office and whenever I had a big event or whatever, she would just come over and offer to help.
Oh,
She was so sweet. Well, we had a position come open. We didn't even interview anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We immediately went to her because she had made herself available. She was always so helpful, always so pleasant. And I think there's a stat that Kelly Gangle gave in one of our interviews that 70% of jobs are invisible.
That's right.
And that was one of the invisible jobs. Never made it to the market because we created it and we already knew to move her in. But I want you as a hiring manager to talk a little bit about the invisible jobs.
I will, and I want to just segue from what you were just saying too, and that is to get to the point where you're speaking that this woman got with your organization. You are going to, in your job, be proactive. Always look for where you can be a blessing. Always seek opportunity to where you know your boss might be struggling with something that might be easy for you, but hard for them. There are things right now that are hard for me, but easy for some of my younger colleagues. And so they proactively step up and do it. Those are the people I know have leadership ability. They are able to see, oh, here's something I could do better and I'm going to help. Just like you say, those are the people that we have our eye on for internal movement. When we have external, being a larger corporation, when we have external jobs, of course, they have to be posted. They're not invisible. So, they have to be posted. There has to be opportunity for everyone to, take that. But when we have internal candidates, we are able to support them for that role as managers and people who know them, like you said. And I think that's really important for an internal situation where we're able to say, here's why this person has leadership ability or whatever. So we've just moved several people into leadership from the role they're in now based on the fact that they have done these things and been really proactive and just looked for ways to help out and to make things better. Seen gaps, filled the gaps, that sort of thing. So always in jobs, you're looking for that so that you can progress not only your skill set but your own career.
Well, and what you did, I mean, just from the start of your story, the how you got into this organization was almost an invisible job. Like I'm sure it was posted,
Yes, yeah,
but
it was, but
you had an advocate.
exactly. And that's what it takes.
Yes.
This job market now is so competitive that is absolutely what it takes now. You really do have to know people and you have to network. And most industries are very incestuous in a way because people just move from company to company.
Too. And then
And
come back.
yes, absolutely. There's a lot of back and forth in these companies. And as larger companies absorb smaller companies, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so in these 15 years, I've developed quite a network of people in this industry who were in many other corporations in the same industry. And that's been great to kind of help people move around because our endorsements to each other mean something. And that's the other thing too is you cannot just be that person who's like, oh yeah, she's great. Yeah, he's fantastic. Don't, yeah. No, your endorsement has to mean something because you want to help the people who really should be helped.
So
So
how do you elicit from somebody a good endorsement?
be a little more specific. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm gonna actually turn this into so I do a lot of college coaching, right? And teachers
Mm-hmm.
have to write recommendations. And there's a parallel here. If a teacher writes a recommendation that says, "Oh, Kristen, she's great. She's a great student. Please let her in." That means nothing.
Nothing, right? Gotcha.
Zero. She did the best project. She was a role model in the classroom. She
Mm-hmm.
asked the best questions. Now you're getting a much bigger
Exactly.
picture. And I think if somebody offers to be an advocate for you or to do a recommendation for you, one of the things that you can be proactive in is give them those little nuggets or little teasers. And one of the ways that I always tell students to do it is just say, hey, would it be helpful if I told you my favorite memories from the class?
Mm.
Or if I told you my favorite experiences while working in this role? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, we do want specifics. I mean, we can't, like you said, we can't just say, oh, this person did a great job on this project or whatever. I want to know that they went above and beyond. I want to know that they took ownership of something. They saw a gap. They found a solution. They created maybe a template that would help everybody on the team. Shared that with everyone on the team, or they found a quicker way to do something. Or nowadays, smarter people are using AI to make things go faster.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is everybody just better learn AI
Yeah.
because you want a slide deck, put it in AI, and you've got a slide deck. You don't have to suffer anymore to make a slide deck. So all these things, when you are being an advocate for somebody, you do have to be specific and let them know what the skill set is for that person and how it does transfer into the role they want. For us, if we're moving someone to leadership, we want to show that they've been leaders in the where they've had opportunity to be leaders
Fair. Right.
or where they've communicated with a client. Our group doesn't typically communicate with clients. Sometimes they have the opportunity. So that's another specific that's helpful to them if they were to move into that role. So the more specific you can be when you're being someone's advocate, certainly the better.
And that's also true and people already know this, but on your CV or resume, the more specific you can be to the needs of the organization and also kind of anticipate what the needs would be, that helps you out immensely.
Well, and know the organization. How many hiring managers are you going to talk to that tell you that people apply for that job and they don't know anything about your company's culture? They don't know anything about what your purpose is. They don't know where your headquarters is. I mean, just basics like that. Show some interest. Come to that interview prepared with that information. Know the culture, understand what you're getting yourself into. And the other thing, too, is where we have now a bolus of layoffs across many, many organizations, there are a lot of people seeking jobs. And I think your first instinct is to just throw your resume at every job there is.
Right.
This is a terrible mistake because it takes away the energy that you need to really find the right job, for one thing. And for another, it makes you look like you don't know what you want to do. It's confusing. We have people even internally that will apply to 5 or 6 different types of job that have nothing to do with one another. Well, this just gives talent acquisition a pause. They're just like, what is this? I mean, you can't be all these things.
Right.
So this is again where you need to step back, look at what you've got, look at your skill set, look at where you want to grow, look at what you want to do, and really be reasonable and intentional about the jobs you apply for and hone that CV, hone that resume to make it make sense for that job. Again, look for those transferable skills because hiring managers, for the most part, they're not going to interview you and think, okay, let me think really hard now. What could her transferable skills be from what she did before? No, you have to tell them what your skill set is, what transfers, how you see yourself in this job, how you're a benefit to them, because we can't handhold you all the way through. We need people that hit the ground running, especially now where we're doing more with less and managers have other jobs than just managing people now. We have a lot of project work. We have different things that we have to do. We have a day job in addition. So we're looking for people because we're at for-profit companies. We're out to make a profit. We need people who are going to do the best job they possibly can. We'll support, of course, but we definitely want people that can help us understand that they're ready to go.
Well, and so from a psychological point of view, what we're talking about in psychological terms is called locus of control. Where do you see control? So if it's an external sense of control, you're waiting on somebody else to make things happen for you. If it's internal, you're making things happen because you see yourself as being the agent. You have a tremendous sense of agency. And what I hear you saying without saying is, I want people who have a tremendous sense of agency. They're going to come in, they're going to make things happen. I don't have to worry about,
Right,
did you do this? Did you do that? And there's a certain, nexus where both those things interact, right? Because you're working for somebody else.
right, right.
Uh,
And,
so
and it's not that companies are not going to train you for a job you haven't done. Okay, they're going to train you. But as you say, that we need people who we know have that agency, and that comes across in an interview. We know who's going to jump in there and, really learn the job and get it.
how do you know? I love that you said that. We know in an interview. How do you know?
You know, this is one of those things that just comes, I think, with time and learning people and talking to people and asking the right questions. And, this behavioral based interviewing that we all do now,
Right.
where people have to give examples of, tell me about a time when.
Right.
Um, it's very telling. It really does. It tells you who's really invested in their career, because how many times have I asked that question where people just have, they have no answer really.
Oh no.
Yeah, they really just, a lot of times just have no answer. And that shows me that they don't really have agency. They don't really have a desire to look within or really know much about themselves. So you can pretty much immediately know that that person is, probably not going to be the right. But of course, I give everyone their whole interview and give them the whole opportunity. And we try to move questions in a different direction to try to get them to, come out. And sometimes that works and it's worthwhile. But people come across with a certain, they're dynamic. There are people that just they have it, whatever it is. Um, they just have it. They're focused. They're actively listening to your questions. Give them a minute to think about it. They come up with something that's not ridiculous. It's like, what I never ask people what their strengths or weaknesses are, because half the time they say, "Oh, I'm just too much of a perfectionist."
Right.
Just like,
Right.
I don't need to hear that. But the people just come across, you just know from just the way they come across, their interest. They know about the company. They understand the job, even if they've never done even a similar job. And I've hired people that have not done this job, but there's something about them that tells me they're going to be able to do it really well. And I'm usually right.
And I'm usually right. But to your point, and I think that is also something people need to hear. Like, even if you don't have the skill set, it doesn't mean you're not capable of doing the
That's
job.
right.
You learn
That's
it.
right. That's
And
right.
so don't close any doors because you don't know. Let somebody else close the door. Uh,
Yeah. But learn it. Learn what the job is.
oh, 100%.
The people, I've had who've not really done this exact job before came to the interview knowing exactly what the job was, or pretty close. They had done their homework, they had done their research, and they told me how what they had done before would help them
Yeah.
be organized or manage or that sort of thing. So, again, transferable skills.
Well, and so just for clarification, behavioral based interview it's the STAR method,
Yeah,
situation, action, result. So if you're preparing to go into one of these interviews, you want to look at the way the job description is laid out and come up with examples after examples so that you can demonstrate beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have the competencies this position is looking for. And then
okay.
you can take it even further and say, and it's okay. I don't know how you feel about this, but I always feel like it's okay to be authentic and say, this is what we did.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you it went great. This is how I do it again in hindsight. Uh, what's your take on that?
Well, I think that's the key to everything is if you can learn from your mistakes, then you're gold. If you can't learn from your mistakes and you just keep saying, this is how we've always done it, I'm going to keep doing it this way, I don't think you're of value to my team. But I do think that lessons learned is the key to growth in any career, well, any life skill at all, but
Life,
lessons
general.
learned,
Right?
lessons learned, dating, even,
Right,
child,
exactly. So I'm
any,
like, there's
yeah,
lots of ways that we learn and things we need to learn about.
exactly, exactly.
So if you were to start again, let's say that you're starting now as a 50-year-old or older who is now laid off and in the job market, what would be your strategy for finding success?
Well, first, what my strategy would not be is to say, okay, I am a director in this particular area right now, but one time I was exposed to project management. So I'm going to apply for this senior director role in project management in a different industry. No, wow, no. That's illogical and that's not going to help you and that's going to make you feel bad. What you do want to do is you want to use your network. And your network is your neighbors, your friends, even if they're retired. They have insights into where they worked before. Their children are working in companies. Their children probably have higher level positions than you even had at this point. So you want to start there and you want to just start conversations and ask good questions, find out about these companies, find out what they did. Your neighbor works at Fidelity, say, and is a director in, I don't know, IT or whatever. Um, Find out what they're doing at Fidelity, what's happening over there. Your other neighbor is a CPA at a CPA firm. What's happening there? What do they need? Do you have bookkeeping skills? Maybe you were a bookkeeper before. I mean, I've done that and found part time bookkeeping work
Yeah.
back in the day. Um, you want to just use every resource you have without being, you know, a pain for people. Your network are your friends and your people that will help you. People you used to work with. Like if you used to work with me, I have friends at other companies. I know what they're doing. Ask me about that. Um, your kid's soccer coach probably works at SAS maybe, and you can, ask, but always just start there. Start with your network, start talking to people because you never know. Like, would it ever have occurred to me that my office manager's friend that I happened to have dinner with one night would be the conduit into this company? It's just, these are the things where you just don't underestimate any association that you have. And I would suggest finding someone like you, Kristen, to talk to and just really, I mean, we did Myers Briggs. You sat down with me. You helped me really dig deep and look at, what I wanted to do, what I was interested in, what I was good at. And down to I was good at cooking. You were saying, okay, well, how about this? Looking at every avenue. And I think having that objective person to be able to come out and take a look at, your skill set and what you're interested in and what you might want to do, and to kind of give you ideas about who your network might be, is so valuable. But you need an objective look at yourself.
Well, and objectively speaking, your network, so 70% of jobs, and I don't know that this is still the case, but when I wrote the book I wrote on getting hired, 70% of jobs were gotten through networking.
I believe it.
The interesting thing to me was it was not a direct hire. It was like what you're talking about. It was 1 to 2 people removed. So yours
Mm-hmm.
was 2 people removed, right? You had your friend's friend came to dinner with you all
Mm-hmm.
got on well, and then it was your friend's friend that had the connection in the
That's
organization.
right. That's right.
So, in to your point, you have to stay open. I just read this great article, and I'm doing a blog post on it. It was David Brooks's commentator. He's like a social and political commentator, and he was talking about looking at stuff through the illuminated gaze or the diminisher's gaze, the illuminator's gaze or the diminisher's gaze.
Interesting.
So the illuminator's gaze is curious and, kind of to this energy, like you just stay curious about everyone and everything. And you're not looking to see how can you help me exactly. You're looking to see how can I help you really?
Yeah.
Like, and but in a soft way. It's not
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and,
Get me a job.
and to have a genuine connection with somebody
That's right. That's right.
without the expectation is going on. Whereas the diminisher's gaze is very ego involved, it's self-serving, it's what can you do for me? And we diminish people the way he used the example. And, if you find out somebody has certain political affiliations, if you find out their
Hmm.
socioeconomic background, their pronoun, whatever it is, you do what's called stacking, where you immediately build out a personality like, oh, you must
Hmm.
have all that. And then you realize, well, probably 10% was right, and the other 90% is, very different. But I love that like that framework for going into the job
Hmm.
market of
That's
just
good.
looking at it, with like, wow, where can I shine light? What can I do? It just offers a different orientation.
I think so. And I think when you really think about it, the possibilities are endless. We can be our own worst enemy when it comes to, and I know I certainly was when I met you, was my own worst enemy. Um, when it comes to this, because there's something good around every corner. There really is. And today might look bad, but tomorrow is a different day. And you just really have to just have that mindset of that illumination mindset where you're just looking for the good and you're going to find it. You really are.
Yeah. And I actually want to talk about how I got connected to you because I think that's another good story too.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was doing my career coaching business, I was going to, it's called BNI, Business Networking International Meetings, and I would meet the people at these meetings who had different businesses themselves. And then I would give them referrals, they would give me referrals. And a gentleman gave me your name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how those networks are set up just for that purpose. The referral, those are very direct and it is, a very intense process. And I'm not suggesting that everyone goes out and joins one of those.
Right.
To say people know how valuable networking is and they built whole industries on making networking connections.
That's right. And and honestly, kind of back to what you were saying before, those connections need to be genuine. And I think your point about always being authentic, always being genuine is going to serve anyone well. Um, when you when you're not authentic and you're not genuine, you're going to put yourself in situations that are not going to serve you well. And it becomes obvious to people and they stop wanting to interact with you.
Yeah.
And I just think, show your vulnerability to people, put yourself out there, be yourself, and things happen for you. And it really does work.
It does. And it takes time. And just to reiterate kind of your journey, it was from working with your ex-husband to some part-time bookkeeping to the Social Security Disabilities Office,
Which I did love.
which you did love. I remember talking to you when you were there, to the dinner, to, you know, the organization, and then kind of up the chart from there, and having people see you face to face every day, getting to know you, seeing your work ethic, seeing that you were dependable, seeing that you could execute things well, because those are transferable skills no matter what
No
you're
matter what, right?
doing,
That's right.
So then they trust you, they have confidence in your ability, and now we have a bigger role. Let's move her into that because we know she can handle it. It's a relief to our hiring manager when they have somebody good coming into a position.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, oh, thank God. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So,
Yeah.
and then to keep growing from there. Any last words of wisdom you would like to share?
Well, even though your job is an 8 hour a day job, if you really want to grow your career, sometimes it goes beyond that. And, you have to be willing to put in the time and the effort, go the extra mile. If you want to grow your career, that's just the way it is because companies are for profit. That is how it is. So don't be resentful of having to, excuse me, put in some extra time here and there because it pays off in the long run. It really does. And just, again, just be yourself, think about what you've got to offer, and put yourself out there.
Great advice. Thank you so much. I just so appreciate you showing up and
Oh,
sharing all the things that, well, not all. We just got a tiny little tidbit on the iceberg of knowledge that you have, but I really
well,
appreciate
thank you.
being here.
Thank you so much for having me.